you wash
Okay, so welcome friends in YouTube land, and another exciting installment of Natural Meditation, where we do nothing fast or slow, or it's hard to say, but we don't do much. There's not, for anyone that's new to, no one in this room is new to this, but anyone who's watching who's new to this, we don't ask much from you in this form of meditation. Basically, it's just get seated comfortably and stay there for a while. You know, I mean, really, all the instructions you need, basically, you've given to your dog, which is sit, stay. Okay. We'll elaborate a little bit, but we do want to have our phones double check that they're off. And we have a number of people back here that I haven't seen for a while. Hi, Beth. So good to see you again. And Michael and Sue Ellen just back from Japan. Looking forward to hearing your Japan stories over cookies at cookie time. This is, if those of you who haven't met my dear friend Phil from New Jersey, you know that I was teaching in New Jersey forever. Phil comes to a group that my late first wife Maggie and I started in 1980 something, and it still goes every Sunday. People that learn to meditate through me continue to run that group, and whenever I'm on the East Coast, I always make it a point to try to be there on a Sunday morning and lead it, and it's great. It's always so great seeing all these folks. Made even greater by our ritual, which is after the session is over, we go up the road to the Sunset Diner. And for those of you not familiar with New Jersey diners, they are great. The menu always looks like War and Peace. Yeah, and it's about like 50 pages, right? And like nothing is really great.
That's awful.
Right?
Do better in your own kitchen.
There's nothing's really, but there's something about it that's just great. It's a different level of great. I don't know. There actually is, so you get a lot of just about anything you can think of that you've had anywhere is on the menu, and one thing you've not had anywhere else besides a New Jersey diner, which is something called disco fries, okay, which is a giant plate of French fries. Slathered over it is melted American cheese and brown meat gravy. It's disgusting and great.
I wonder why they called it, after you were done at the disco, you'd go eat something like that, probably, like you were drunk.
Who knows? Or maybe just disco it was invented in the 70s, so
makes sense,
everything was disco.
Yeah.
You know, like everything invented in the 90s or the 2000s was small I. You know, it would have been I fries. So, one person who's not here tonight, Gina, who was here last time, and I want to start with, so Gina, I hope you're watching this, because I want to start by picking up on something that she said last time. After the meditation, and I was asking people, as I always do, how you doing? And she said, well, it was hard. And you remember, and that's right, she was sitting there. And we addressed that in various ways, talked about effortlessness and you know, letting nature take over. But I want to address the same point in a slightly different way. Because this may be useful to anytime you find yourself saying, gee, meditation's hard. It used to be easy, or it's easy when I go to Dean and Yaffa's place on Tuesday night. It's hard now. Okay? If you've ever found yourself saying that. Anytime you find yourself saying it's hard, please imagine that I am there and I'm responding. What exactly is it that you are trying to do that you're finding hard to do? Right? For example, if I try to lift this chair with my pinky and a 165-pound guy sitting in it, that's going to be hard. There's this specific task I'm trying to accomplish, and it's difficult. So it can be a physical task, it can be a mental task. If I try to visualize all the hairs in the back of my head, exactly the configuration of all the hairs in the back of my head without using a mirror, it's going to be difficult. Actually, it's getting easier every year. For Phil, it's a snap. But you get the point. If we say, oh, it's hard, the question is to ask yourself, since I'm not there to bust you, the question to ask yourself is, well, what is it precisely that I'm trying to do that I'm finding to be hard? Okay? And it'll probably be, in the case of meditation, oh, I'm trying to clear the mind. I'm trying to feel peace. I'm trying to not have thoughts. Something. Doesn't matter what it is. Whatever it is, it's not something that I have told you to do. And stop it. Just stop trying. Stop trying. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, don't try to do that. Instead, just rest in the awareness that presents itself right here, right now, prior to your trying. It's there before you start to try. It's there after you give up trying. And actually, it's there all the way through, in the middle as well, in the background. It's just awareness. Like the flat screen. Superimposed on the flat screen, the blank, pure, beautiful, brilliant, deliciously empty screen, is the whole story of whatever phenomena are going on. At that moment, the phenomenon that's going on is your effort, which is just a story, just a movie. And, whatever it is you're trying to do, you'll try to do it for a while till you give up. Whatever it is, you will not succeed at it, I promise you. Those of you who have spent maybe dozens of minutes or thousands of hours sitting on a meditation cushion trying to X, whatever is X, trying to concentrate, trying to suppress your thoughts, trying to feel bliss, whatever you've tried to do. If you've spent a lot of time trying to do something, anything in meditation, I just have one thing for you to consider, which is just rough, back of the envelope or on the napkin math. How many total man hours or woman hours have you spent trying to do whatever that was? And out of that, for how many seconds have you succeeded? Okay? And that math should be discouraging enough that you give up. And then when you give up, that's meditation. That's meditation. You give up into the awareness that's there without any help from you. You surrender to that. Okay? And the entire task of a meditation teacher or a meditation guide is simply to maybe shorten that time a little bit until you give up. It's going to happen sooner or later. You can't keep, knocking your head against the wall forever. Eventually you'll get tired of doing that, and then nature takes over, gravity takes over, and you're pulled within into this awareness which was right here all along, this screen which was here behind the movie all along. And my entire job is just to, if I can shorten that time a little bit, point out the futility of your efforts, help facilitate that letting go, then great. But it'll happen sooner or later anyway. Okay? Is that making sense? Okay. So let's sit comfortably. And at any point, if the way you're sitting becomes uncomfortable, you're rearrange as necessary. But stay seated. Don't be getting up and to, do this or do that or get a drink or whatever, because then you're just distracting yourself from letting the process happen. So it's sit, stay. And then all your efforts will roll over and play dead.
And get a cookie afterwards.
I almost got the spit take with my tea there. There's a bonus, there's a prize for anyone that makes me do a spit take. You get 2 cookies. Okay, so sitting comfortably. And if you notice this little bit, this little routine in the mind that now goes, oh, now we're starting. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're not starting anything. We're not starting anything. We're already here. We're already aware. Is anyone here not aware? Please raise your hand if you're not aware. Obviously, if you hear me saying the question, you're aware. So awareness is already present. It's always present. We're just going to rest in that, as it is. And we may as well let our eyes close. Just let gravity pull your eyelids closed. It's less effort than keeping them open. So what's experienced naturally all by itself without our having to bring anything to the table? Sounds are present. Sounds like this voice starting and stopping. Traffic outside. Occasionally an airplane in the distance. Occasional sounds from other people in the room. Perfect. And of course, all this hearing takes place naturally, spontaneously, effortlessly, and therefore unpredictably. Who knew there'd be a jet taking off or whatever that is in the distance right now? So not only are we not in charge, not in control of what sounds we hear, we can't even know what sounds we're going to hear. So that's a wonderful opportunity to give up, to surrender. Of course, we're not surrendering control over what we hear. We never had control. But just any illusion of control, any pretense that we were the traffic cop, or the guy in the control tower. So hearing happens on its own. Sensations happen on their own. Even with the eyes closed, some vague seeing happens on its own, the vague colors dancing behind the eyelids. And just as all these phenomena of the senses come and go on their own, out of our control, also the phenomena of the mind come and go. The thoughts, the feelings. And they're just like sounds or sensations or colors. Unpredictable, uncontrollable. And immaterial. It doesn't matter what they are. A thought about your shopping list or a thought about the meaning of life, it's just all part of the same comings and goings, like different sounds or colors coming and going. We can treat all the thoughts as if they're in some foreign language we don't even understand. Some conversation vaguely overheard in the airport, too far away to really make out what the people are saying, and oh, they're speaking a different language anyway, blah, blah, blah. Just stuff coming and going on the screen. And the only thing that does not come and go is the screen itself. This open space within which all the phenomena are experienced. And we have three main names for this open space. We can call it awareness. All the stuff that we're aware of comes and goes within awareness. We can call it being or beingness. It just is. Everything else is becoming, changing. But this awareness just is. It's being, beingness. And we can call it I. I. Because who or what is aware? Who or what is experiencing? Who or what is this perfect open space of experiencing? Well, it's you. Who else? Not you, a body, or you, a gender, or age, or nationality. Those are all things you're aware of. That's all just more stuff on the screen. But the screen is you, awareness, you, beingness. You, the space within which the thoughts and sensations, the feelings, the sounds come and go. So nothing to do but rest in that space. Rest as that open space. Rest as the I, beingness, awareness, as you already are. How far do you have to travel to get to I? 0 miles and 0 inches. How hard do you have to work to be what you already are? 0 calories of work. So just remain as you are. That's simple. Just rest as open, empty, space-like awareness, as you already are. Not much bothering about the stuff that comes and goes within this space that you are. Letting that take care of itself. Just as it doesn't matter what sounds may come and go or what thoughts may come and go, it doesn't matter what feelings may come and go. So if you happen to have a feeling of joy, so. If you happen to have a feeling of anger or loneliness or restlessness, so. Just another thing passing through. None is better or worse than the other. None matters. All just stuff passing through the space. Just in flickering images passing across the screen. We're only concerned about resting as the screen, as the open space of awareness. Perfectly content to let everything else pass frictionlessly through us. At any point, if you find yourself grappling with some thought or some feeling or sound, resisting it or holding on to it or trying to figure it out, that's fine. Just relax your grip on it. That's all. Don't try to get rid of it. Don't try to figure it out. Just relax your grip on it and relax back into yourself. yourself, beingness, awareness, like space. And it doesn't matter what's there along with it, as long as you relax your grip on it. If sometimes you feel that you've gone off on some long train of thoughts, that's fine too. And you haven't gone anywhere. All those thoughts have been right here, within you, within this open space of awareness, beingness, where all thoughts happen. You can never go anywhere. So there's nothing to get rid of. There's nowhere to come back to. Once you realize that you've been kind of caught up in that train of thoughts, once you realize that, you're no longer caught up. You're already out. Notice what's happening right now. Maybe you hear the sound. That's one experience within awareness. Perfect. Maybe you have a thought. Oh, that's someone's cell phone. Perfect. Just stuff passing frictionlessly through the space of awareness. Maybe there's a thought, okay, who's the culprit that didn't turn off their phone? That's another thought. Perfect. Maybe there's some feeling that accompanies that thought. Grrr. That's another thing. Just another phenomenon passing through the awareness. So there's no problem. And that applies to anything that ever happens while you're sitting in so-called meditation. The only question is, why do I tell people to turn off their phones? I don't know. But maybe you had an experience of grappling with that feeling, resisting that sound being there. Perfect. It's another opportunity when you realize you're doing that to relax your grip on it. Relax back into yourself once again. Relax back into open beingness, awareness once again. That's the correct response to anything that happens in meditation. So keep the eyes closed, and as always, take a few minutes to gently bring the body back to a more active state, like coming out of a nice long nap. shift around, stretch your limbs. One thing you might like to do, especially if you spend a lot of time looking at screens during the day, as so many of us do, is when you're coming out of meditation, rub the palms of your hands together quickly so they generate warmth, and then put them on your eyelids. That really feels good. And after a couple of minutes, when you feel ready, you can slowly open the eyes. Okay, how are we doing? Good? Okay. Any questions or comments about the experience?
What if meditation doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? Like, what if you try to meditate, but it like...
Yeah, if you try to
How
meditate...
do you get it to work?
By not trying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Exactly remember the discussion we had before we started. The whole key is not trying. Trying to do what? What do you... Anytime you find...
Make your mind go blank?
Yeah. You'll never succeed at that.
Yeah.
I've been doing this stuff since the late 60s, so I've never succeeded in making my mind blank. That's the bad news. The good news is it has nothing to do with making your mind blank. And any effort, any task, you go, okay, here's a goal. I'm going to make my mind blank. I guarantee it'll never happen. Okay, I'm going to try to feel whatever my concept is of the bliss of meditation. Well, whatever your concept is, you're creating that concept from, like you're trying to create a concept of, let's call it enlightenment. But if you're trying to create a concept of enlightenment, where are you doing it from? Means you're doing it from unenlightenment. And that means it's going to be wrong. You see what I'm saying? It's like you've never been to Disneyland, and I keep hearing about how great Disneyland is. And there's no ads, so you make up all your own thoughts about what Disneyland is going to be like, and then you go around trying to find something that looks like that. Then you won't get there, because actually you will eventually. It'll just take a lot longer. Eventually you'll by trial and error, you'll stumble into the right place. You'll get tired of trying.
What is meditation? Thinking about nothing, or?
It's resting as awareness. Resting, it's noticing, am I aware? Are you aware right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good. And where did you have to go to find the answer to that question? Did you have to go anywhere?
No.
Exactly. So because awareness is right here. Wherever you are, whatever's going on. Whether your mind is a blank or your mind is full of thoughts, Am I aware? Yeah. I'm aware, and I'm aware of a bunch of thoughts. Or I'm aware and I'm aware of a blank. I'm aware of being upset. I'm aware of being happy. The one thing that's the constant is awareness. It's always there. It's the only thing that's always true. You know, even we think, well, but the one thing that's true is I, which is true if we understand that what I is awareness. If we think, oh, I is once upon a time I was a 15-year-old teenager who had certain feelings and certain thoughts. Now, as a person, I'm a different age, I have different thoughts. All that stuff changes, but I was aware then, I'm aware now. So we just notice, am I aware? Yeah, rest in that. Where do I have to go to notice I'm aware? Nowhere. It's always right here. Okay, rest in that. Rest is awareness. Don't try to change anything else. When you find yourself trying to make the mind blank or trying to change something, trying to control your thoughts, just give up. Relax your grip on that effort. Relax back into yourself, into this awareness, again and again. And then it takes over. And you know this. We all forget sometimes, but you know this because I've heard you say, gee, I feel, things are getting better. I'm feeling more tranquility in my life. Doesn't matter what the experience is while you're meditating. The other 23 and a half hours of the day, things are getting more eased up, less grinding your gears, more just kind of things flowing, then that's meditation working. Meditation works when you don't work. Working doesn't work. Not working works. Yeah, Tommy?
How would you contrast relaxing into awareness compared to a method like TM, which I believe you were formerly a teacher of?
Right. Yeah. So TM works on that. I mean, I'm deeply, deeply grateful to my first serious teacher, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who founded the whole TM organization. It's an ancient technique. He gave it that name, Transcendental Meditation. It's actually a translation of ancient Sanskrit term, Bhavati Dhyan. Basically means transcendental meditation. And so Maharishi is the first person who really from whom I learned with great clarity that effortlessness is the key. And I had done a little bit of meditation here and there in other methods, very unsuccessfully because I was trying. And then Maharishi showed me, that the way was effortlessness. So that's the main element in TM. The other element is that while you're hanging out there effortlessly, in TM you're given a mantra, short 1 or 2 syllable, very smooth, simple, mellifluous sound to kind of rest your awareness on that. And then what happens is, in time, by, just as we've all experienced, sometimes you find yourself trying to control things, making some effort, you try for a while, then you give up, you go back to just hanging out. In what we're doing here, just resting as awareness. In TM, you come back to resting on the faint idea of the mantra. Then in time, in TM, the mantra kind of fades away. It kind of dissolves like a cough drop in the mind. And then you're left with just resting as awareness. So it gives you a little something more to hang on to, and then that dissolves, and then you're just resting as awareness. So in this case, we skip the first part. We just go directly into resting as awareness. It's a little more subtle. It takes some. It takes some subtlety and some precision of instruction. But you're all able to do it. And in what I find is that way it's a lot simpler. I can instruct a whole room full, or sometimes I've done it with a whole auditorium full of people. Whereas in TM, because you had to give the mantra individually, then the logistics became more complicated. And also historically, stuff happened with the TM organization where they started charging very big amounts of money, and anytime you get an organization, the word spiritual organization is kind of an oxymoron. There always winds up being politics, and then they started charging ungodly amounts, I thought, of money. So for me, it was no longer the place to hang. It was no longer a hospitable situation for me to teach in, which was great. It just nudged me out of that nest. And every time I get nudged out of a nest, it seems to be the story of my life. Every nest I get comfortable in, I get nudged out of, and I always fight it, and then it always turns out to be a good thing.
Isn't there also like more standardized, like you're supposed to do meditation for X amount of minutes every day, and like you have to follow a rigorous kind of thing?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, in TM, Maharishi was very much about systematizing things. Right. We learned teaching procedures from Maharishi word for word. We had to be tested and be able to say these things word for word, which made perfect sense when he came along and started, 1968. He started earlier. I started TM in 1968. He'd taken a bunch of, hippies off of the sidewalk and given us haircuts and neckties, and and okay, now you people are going to bring meditation to the Western world and show people that it's not some weirdo exotic Eastern stuff, that it's actually a scientific thing, and it's healthy and it's good. So it made perfect sense that he had us memorize these scripts with different situations. In this situation, if the person says A, then you say B. That was great. I found for a while. After a while, it started. It can become a little robotic. I was good because I was had been a drama student. I had a lot of acting experience, so I could pretend I was saying it for the first time every time. But with more experience of your own, what I've found, with more experience of my own meditation, my own development, and of instruction, I'm able to feel confident. It's like playing music, playing jazz. First, you got to play the scales, play them precisely. As you get the scales into your blood, you can forget about them, and you can, all the great, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, Dizzy Gillespie, they can play anything they want, and it's going to work. You don't have to think about what they're playing. Then it's fun. Yeah, Beth, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, at the point when it became what I considered commercially trendy, people were more interested in you telling them what your mantra was and sharing your mantras, and I said, you're missing the point.
You know what, that business of, what's your mantra, it was always that way.
Yeah.
And that was, in the world of meditation or spirituality or whatever word you want to use, everything is a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is going to, so Maharishi, by using a method that employs the mantra, on the one hand, it gave people a little something to hang on to until you let it go, which is great. But then because it's the one thing you can get, because it's the one thing you can kind of get a grip on, people would focus on it. Like that was the important. You'd hear people say, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go downtown to the TM Center and get my mantra. I'm going to pick up picking up a loaf of bread." Yes, Ellen?
Just a point of clarification: is are mantras always individual, or is it like a collection of them and different people get?
It's a collection of them. There's more than one and fewer than 7 billion. It's kind of vaguely like blood types. Some people are going to be O positive, some are going to be A negative, something like that, roughly.
You just want to properly match the mantra to the blood type, right?
Something like that. Actually, and in those early days, when they were doing the pioneering research on the physiological effects of meditation, which a lot of you have heard me talk about, and this kind of pioneering work was done by Dr. Robert Keith Wallace of UCLA, and eventually he teamed up with Herbert Benson from Harvard Medical School, and some friends of mine were in those first studies, and I was going to be in one of the studies, and then I heard that one of the things they were doing was they were taking blood out of people, to check the change in your the O2 level and arterial lactate, some of these things that change. And I was not wild about having needles stuck in my skin, so I was a little bit sorry that I wasn't in that pioneer group. I was in another study later on, actually, a couple of years later, when I was teaching in New Orleans, and someone did a study on reaction time. Because one of the things that's found is that with meditation, your reaction time becomes quicker, and so I got to be part of that. My reaction time was quicker. Good. What else? Yeah, Dorothy.
Hi, Yafa. A couple sessions ago, you had mentioned.
Isn't this great? See, this is what meditation does. We sit there, we close our eyes for a little while. When we open our eyes, there's this this nice blonde girl materializes in the middle of the room.
No, I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
Snapped out of that now.
I rubbed
you're sitting there and everything, you know.
I rubbed the lamp long enough. Hi, honey.
But a few sessions ago, we were talking about, resting as awareness and letting the thoughts just come and go and whatever. And then you had made this comment about, but you can't be just daydreaming. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I think I've been daydreaming.
I don't know if I said that. I just said, I probably asked, is it spacing out or what if?
Well, you had mentioned the word daydreaming, and I remember thinking, I haven't heard that word for so long. And I was like, oh crap, is that what I've been doing?
How's your life going, Dorothy?
Great.
There you go. That's it. So don't worry. But I mean, what does this word daydreaming mean? It means a bunch of thoughts.
Is it just more like when you're daydreaming, or are your thoughts just longer? Because
I get,
do you know what I mean? Like
Daydreaming has a negative connotation.
You're
When you're
caught
in
up
school,
more.
Yes.
Why are you daydreaming?
Okay. Did you all hear
That's
that?
why.
See, words are
Okay,
words are funny things. First of all, as Humpty Dumpty says to Alice in Wonderland, the word means what I want it to mean when I use it. People, and you'll hear people argue about what a word means, and it's because they're using it in a different way. There's no great big book of life, even the dictionary. Well, what does the dictionary say? Well, if people use this word in this way long enough, that goes into the dictionary.
Right.
So that's one thing. Then another thing that Phil has just correctly pointed out is that some words that the word daydreaming in this case has a negative connotation.
Right.
That's a thing that when you're in school, your teacher tells you to stop doing, right? And it's actually, this whole business of positive and negative connotation is a good thing to be aware of, because it's used to manipulate people. It's what, people in sales, people in politics do all the time. Like, for instance, I'll have my attorney call your lawyer. You hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, because attorney has a positive connotation. Lawyer has a neutral connotation. If I want to really be nasty, I'll say, I'll have my attorney call your shyster. Right? Your terrorists are going up against my freedom fighters.
So what about daydreaming, though?
Okay, well, what does it mean?
Is it a more prolonged that you?
Sounds like, I mean, a dream. When we say dream, usually the idea is there's some story, there's some plot there.
As opposed to
Yafa's dreams are like novels. Mine are like haikus. I'll be like, oh, well, there was a thing sitting on a shelf, and then I woke up. Whereas she gets up in the morning, tells me, I mean, it's like chapters, you know. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess daydreaming means, I don't use that word because it's a loaded word, because it has different connotations for people. Yeah.
That's when you said it, I was like, wow, daydreaming.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it as negative though.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think of it as negative either, but I was just saying with meditation, is it sort of, not a negative thing, but.
There's a wonderful, there's a wonderful song that a few of you may be old enough to remember by the Lovin' Spoonful. What a day for a daydream, custom made for a daydreaming boy. It's great. Yeah, I love it. So, as far as meditation is concerned, I'd say when you realize you've been caught up in some long series of thoughts or a short series of thoughts. If you call it a daydream or call it XYZ. Doesn't matter what you call it. When you realize you've been caught up in something, there's essentially three choices. One is, oh, but this is a really interesting daydream or really interesting bunch of thoughts, so I'm just going to continue to indulge in it. That's one way to go. Second way to go is, oh, I'm a bad meditator. I've been on this long thing, but I have to stop it. I have to stop being caught up in it. Okay? Now, can you see the flaw in that second way of thinking? The flaw in the first way of thinking is there we're indulging. We're indulging, we're choosing to be caught up in the thing some more. Because it's interesting, because it's pleasurable, maybe it's scary, but whatever it is, we're indulging, we're choosing to focus on that some more. The second way, the flaw is, oh, I have to stop being caught up in this. But at that point, you're no longer caught up. When you're caught up, you don't realize you're caught up because you're caught up. Once you realize that you've been caught up, you're no longer caught up. That's the only way you can realize it. Y'all hearing that? It's like when you're watching a movie. We went to this incredible movie the other night at our wonderful Aero Theater, Seven Samurai. It's right up there with the best films ever made. And it's this epic story. It's 3 hours and 20 minutes long, and you don't never want it to stop. And you're so caught up, and when people die, you're upset, and when people are falling in love, you're totally caught up in it. That's one of the reasons we love to go to movies. Why should you be crying over that's not a real person really being killed? It's an act. It's a two-dimensional black and white representation of some actors most of whom died decades ago anyway, and yet because we're caught up in it, we forget that it's a movie. So in a way, a daydream or a long series of thoughts, whatever the hell it is, it's like that. So when you realize, oh, it's only a movie, oh, I've been caught up in these thoughts, you're no longer caught up in it. You may notice that when you're dreaming at night, have you ever had this happen when you're dreaming, you're watching all the giraffes flying around or whatever, and then if you go, wait a minute, giraffes don't fly, oh, this must be a dream, and then you wake up. You ever had that happen? When you realize it's a dream, you stop dreaming. So in the same way, when you realize you've been caught up in the thoughts, the so-called daydreams, you're no longer caught up. At that point, when you're no longer caught up, if you go, okay, I'm going to be a good meditator now and stop being caught up, you're trying to do something that it doesn't, and that's when you tie yourself in knots. Or if you go, okay, I'm not going to let this happen again. Well, there you're trying to go into the future. Even 5 seconds in the future. Or I don't want this to have happened. I've got to go back in the past and make this not have happened. Mm-hmm. That's when you tie yourself up in knots. Mm-hmm. So it's good to explore all these possibilities that don't work. The choosing to indulge doesn't work. The choosing to repress doesn't work. And that only leaves us with one third alternative, the third way, the golden middle path, which is just relax your grip. Realize you're already uncaught up. Relax back into the self, which is where This has all been happening all along, into awareness. It's all been happening all along. Yeah, Tommy?
Do you like the term aware observer?
Aware observer. It's all the term, every term that we use has possibility of leading to misunderstanding. Every term. So they're all okay to use as long as we look closely at where's the back door of misunderstanding. So aware observer, to me, the danger in that one is it. See, there we've got two parts of speech: aware, which is an adjective, and then observer, which is a noun. So it sounds like there's two different things. Like, what other kind of observer can there be besides an aware one?
To me, it implies distance. So it pulls you back a bit to
The word observer?
yeah.
Yeah, so what if we just say observer? This is a word that you'll see is sometimes used in the literature. Or witness. There's a wonderful, right at the very end of the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, and it's the very last, actually there's one more verse that was added later where it's this terrible thing about how women are not as qualified for awareness as men, and historic. It's clear that was added. So the real end of the Gospel of Thomas. Other than that, it's this amazing book. And the very last thing that Jesus says is, "Be passers-by." Right? Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Be passers. The same idea. It's like you're an uninvolved witness.
Mm-hmm.
You're my favorite line from The Godfather is when Clemenza, in the scene where he's cooking the spaghetti sauce for the guy. No, it's a different scene. He's getting the gun ready for Michael to assassinate the two guys, and Clemenza is preparing the gun. He says, "I left it nice and loud so it'll scare off any pain in the ass innocent bystanders." Right? So yeah, it's like innocent bystander, passerby, witness. So all these, it's what I said before. Everything in the spiritual path, including our language or the meditative path, including the words we use, is a double-edged sword. So in this case, those words can evoke that idea of, as you say, distance, of non-involvement, that we're just experiencing it, and we're not the doer. We're not a body that's doing the stuff. We're not a person that we're the awareness that's aware of it all. Then the back door of misunderstanding is it can sound like it's a thing. Right? An observer sounds like a thing. It's a noun. It sounds like a thing. Awareness is a noun too. I use awareness a lot, but it doesn't, if we say observer, there's to some degree we may have like a subtle image of like a person, a chunk, an organism that has eyes, whereas awareness is more disembodied or non-embodied. Another word that's used a lot is consciousness. You'll notice I don't use that. It means the same thing. It's a perfectly fine word. A lot of teachers use it. I like the word awareness better just because of the sounds of the letters. I like the W sound. Whereas consciousness, it's got too many edges.
Consciousness also, to me, evokes like mental activity somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and sometimes it's used that way. And again, it's how people use the words. Mean what people use them to mean. Like, for instance, a lot of teachers, especially teachers that come out of the Advaita tradition, so this will be people like Muji, people like Rupert Spira, when they use the word mind, they're talking about the faculty of thinking. And that's in contrast to awareness. Awareness is the screen. Then there's all this activity, all these phenomena experienced within awareness, which includes thinking as well as the senses and feelings. But if you're listening to or reading teachers in Zen tradition, they'll often use the word mind the way I'm using the word awareness. Or they'll say big mind. Big mind. And it's all fine as long as you know what language is being spoken. If you don't realize that people are talking slightly different languages, then you'll think there's a contradiction that needs to be resolved.
Observer sounds more vigilant than awareness seems more relaxed.
Yeah, I agree. Observer, vigilant. Yeah. You know, T.S. Eliot wrote in one of his poems, "I got to use words when I talk to you." Right? They all have pitfalls, but if we're a little vigilant about what the pitfalls are, and sometimes use a couple of different words for the same thing, so they'll kind of cancel out each other's danger spots. I think that's helpful. But just know that whatever words we use, whatever images they're creating in your mind, whatever thoughts they're creating in your mind, that ain't it. It's the awareness within which all those thoughts and images are coming and going. And if we use the words skillfully, we can use them to look beyond the words.